Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us today for the webinar. My name is Kamala, and David and I will be presenting this 30-minute webinar today on grading and pad design. Just seeing a few more people signing up here. Just wait a couple more seconds. All right. Well, first, welcome back to our regulars, and if this is your first time, thanks for coming to take a look. Software's been developing engineering design software for the last 25 years. And at the core of our company, we have a very user-centric philosophy. We focus on engineering over drafting. And more importantly, we make our software simple and easy to use. And you will see that in action today. So today we will be doing the demonstration in the terrain module of RoadEng. RoadEng has two modules, terrain and location. Today we will be focusing only on the terrain module. And Dave will demonstrate how to use the terrain grading object to design a pad.
Ooh,
and before I pass to Dave, I stuck this in here because I thought he might not give me the chance to go back to it at the end. These are some of our upcoming webinars. So yeah, feel free to join up and or sign up for them. And if you like what you see today, these are some future ones. Okay, and with that, I'll pass on to Dave.
Thanks very much, Cam. Right, so what I'd like to show you today is a fairly simple pad design. And just before I get started, note that there actually is a pretty nice web available. There it is, pad design using terrain. You can get to this using our support training examples page. It's under terrain, and I just searched on the word pad, and there it is. This is a little more sophisticated than what I'm going to work on today, but if you're interested, pad design, there's a document here, there's some files, and it covers all kinds of advanced techniques. Now let's take a look at a fairly simple situation we've got here. In my terrain module, I've got a little surface. It's actually a slice of LiDAR, I believe, a little circular cookie cutter piece of LiDAR, and let's just look at that in 3D.
Oh, and also, just sorry to interrupt, Dave, I forgot to mention, if anyone has questions, there's a question panel. You can type them in, and Dave or I will see them, and he can answer them on the fly if he sees them there.
We've already got a question, and the answer is yes, the webinar is being recorded, and the copy will be posted to YouTube. So, and I think we always send a...
That is also a comment that I did not make. We will be recording it, and if everyone that signed up for this will receive a link to the recording, so you can watch it again or pass it on to anyone who missed the presentation today.
Thanks, Cam.
You're welcome. Sorry for not saying it sooner.
No problem. So we've got a little piece of surface, and I want to design a pad. There's lots of reasons for creating a pad, whether it's a building foundation, drilling pad for oil exploration, who knows, parking lot, airport, anything you can think of that needs a little bit of earthwork, but it's not exactly a road. So I've put in here a property boundary. Is just an artificial shape that I want to stay inside of. And now I want to design my pad here. The first thing to note when working with the terrain module and the grading tool, which is what we're going to be dealing with today, is that you don't actually do any grading inside the original ground surface. You always start with a new terrain. So that's what I'm going to do. First thing, I'm going to create a brand new terrain. Click on the new button here. I do want to see my original ground, so in my plan options I'm just going to add a new background and make sure that I get the right one. There it is. There's a few properties that you can change for the background surface. We'll come back to this later. For now, I'm just happy with the defaults. And zoom extents, there's my original ground. It's a little bit faded. That's a property of the background, so it doesn't get confused with the foreground. Now I'm going to make my pad. So there's a lot of different ways to draw in terrain. I'm going to use the, oh boy, I don't know, maybe I should show you a couple of different ones. One thing you can do, which is kind of nice, is you can turn on a grid. And you can, like if I space the grid at 50 meters here, that will allow me to draw something that's easily multiples of 50 on the side. I can just snap and create something here. The other thing you can do when you create a new feature, edit new feature or Control F, is that you can draw your feature. Let's call this the pad. Okay. The top of the pad is what I'm going to design first. And it will become a surface, so it needs to be both elevation and modeled. It's also going to be a classic break line in that it's going to be the edge of a plane or flat surface, and then it's going to slope down to a fill or cut slope, so it's a break line. I can draw it with the mouse. With the keyboard, this opens the Edit Coordinates dialog box and allows you to do things like type in coordinates or actually to enter azimuths and distances. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to snap to these points here. Call it pad and break line and draw with mouse. And I do need to know an elevation because I need to know what elevation my pad is at. So right now it's set to 100. I should have demonstrated that you can extract the elevation of the background at any time just by hovering over it. So I happen to know that the elevation I want is 721. That's my first guess at the elevation. Okay, and I'll draw that. There's my snap to grid. Go over to here. I've just created a 100-meter side. Okay, that seems reasonable. And up to there, over to there, down to there. Oops. Actually, I'll just use the close function. Okay, there's a rectangle. Now, notice that all the points are at elevation 721, so that's good. It's flat. Also notice that I drew it in a counterclockwise direction, and if you forget, you can always use the next previous point to figure that out. So that's backwards, that's forwards, so it's drawn counterclockwise. I need to know that because I need to know which way is outside. Right, now I'm going to organize this so it lies inside my property boundary, and I can do that with the move function. Everything in terrain is about first selecting your feature. Now this feature is the only feature in my terrain right now. The background is not part of my terrain. Well, it's background, but it's not in the foreground, so I can't select features there. And once I have a feature selected, then I can modify it. And these are kind of all the things you can do to a group of selected features. And move size is one of them, but I can also just type Control M. And this is fairly clear how to use it. When you have the four-headed arrow, you can drag to move your feature. I can select the handles to change the shape of the feature. And here's a new functionality that we just added. You get this little curvy cursor when you get close to the edge of the feature that you've selected. What does that do? It allows you to rotate. So let's just rotate a little bit. There we go. Now, if I knew exactly how much I wanted to rotate this feature, if I knew I wanted to, say, line up with that 50-degree property boundary, instead of doing that, I might just say modify selected features coordinate transformation and rotate, translate, scale. Yep, angle. How about exactly that angle is 50, so I want to turn 40 to get there. Clockwise in degrees. Okay. And there you go. It's, whoops, I went the wrong way. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So where you put your pad is up to you. And now I'm going to grade it out and take a look at the volumes and so on. The nice thing about the grading tool is it's very easy to reproduce. So, well, you'll kind of see as I go along here, I'm going to grade this out and then I'm going to move it around. So I don't have to get it right the first time. Okay, here's how the grading tool works. So I've defined a surface. Well, it's actually just a boundary of a surface. I could actually calculate the terrain surface right now if I wanted to, and it would be very simple. It would just be a plane, right? Let's turn off contours and calculate that. And you know, all the way along here, it's elevation 721, 721. And you can see the elevation of the background there as well at the same time. So here I'm below the surface. Here I'm almost on the surface. Here I'm below the surface again. The background is 722. My pad is 721. Okay, I'm going to grade it out. So there's a button for grading in the toolbar, and if you don't have that toolbar turned on, it's in the terrain modeling menu. Right. I mentioned that this thing is going counterclockwise, so grading outwards is to the right. What do I want to grade to? I have a choice of elevation or file, and actually I want to grade to the background file, which is in this list here. So there it is, OG, that's my original ground surface. You can grade, you can choose any surface, but the background is kind of the obvious one. Right. I'm going to cut at 1:1 and fill at 2:1. I want to have extra features in here every 2 meters so I get a nice accurate surface. I'm going to turn all these on. I can't think of a good reason why you wouldn't turn all of these on, but they're not defaulted that way, so turn them all on. Daylight to tin boundary, that'll be clear in a second, what that means. Calculate tin, that's the surface of the new pad. So yeah, we want to calculate this surface. We want to include all triangles, and we don't want to bother with contours. Okay, that's good. Right, so I'm ready to go. Press the button for grading, and the software goes away and calculates, well, in addition to calculating all these little features that you can see on the plan view, it's also calculated a volume. Unfortunately, it's backwards because it's assumed that the new feature is the original ground. I'm just going to switch that. There we go. I find that I almost always have to switch that. Maybe we should change our defaults, but clearly sometimes you don't know which feature, well, the software doesn't know which feature you mean to be original and which feature you mean, or which surface, sorry. Which surface you mean to be the design surface and which surface you mean to be the original ground. So we give you the option. So this is mostly cut, a tiny bit of fill. Good, and let's just zoom in and see what we've done there. So it created all these little legs to get from the surface down to ground, and let's create a new feature called section. I want to see the elevation of the design surface in the foreground as well as the background surface, and that's automatically done if I create a draped feature. So a draped feature looks like this. It's modeled so it looks at the surface, but it has no intrinsic elevation. It actually drapes the feature on top of the two surfaces. Okay. Yes, it's outside this surface, but it's actually not outside the background. So this warning is a little bit unimportant. I'll just not display it in the future. And oh, I've still got my little gravity points turned on, so it's snapping to those, which is kind of annoying. Let's turn them back off again. There we go. So what does that cross section look like? I'll just make a profile window to look at it. There it is. And it's picked up a couple of extra features. I can get rid of those. They're called projected or intersected features, sometimes very useful to add more features to your profile. In this case, we're just going to be interested in the actual surface features. There we go. That's what it looks like. It's in cut. Great. And of course, these angles are not the same in this cross-section view because, how should we do this? How about we orient these like so? Because I'm cutting across them at different angles. So if you haven't seen the way draped features work, they're nice in that you can move them around in the plan window and they instantly update in the profile window. Oops, I got the scale lock turned on. There we go. So I can move my draped feature around and I can instantly see what's going on in my profile window. Now, let's say I wanted to balance this. I want to regrade it, but I want to move this feature. And there's two ways to change the elevation of that feature. I can, okay, it's selected. That's the first step. I can use coordinate transformation, or I can use shift. Coordinate transformation, what you do is you do things like change the offset. So I could say I want to go up 1 meter. Okay, let's do that. Notice that the elevation here changed to 722. Now I've got all these, I've deleted my terrain, which is why this is looking a little different. And I've got all these little features on the side here that were created during the grading process. So for example, there's this feature here. It's called SLP line, slope line cut. There's another one called slope line fill. It's got a different color. There's a boundary feature here. This feature called SS is the one that's, well, I'll show you the checkbox that creates that. That feature is basically containing the surface, and it does that by having the tin boundary property. And all of those features are at this point out of date. No problem. I just reselect my pad feature, go back to the grading tool, set daylight to tin boundary. That's what made that SS feature into a tin boundary, so it would contain the triangles, the surface. I don't need to change anything. Everything here is set up the way it was before. I just click OK, and instantly it recalculates everything. And now you can see my cut is way less and my fill is way more. It's still not balanced. Okay, it'd be nice to push a button and get it to balance, but in fact you can't do that with terrain, at least not yet. So I'm just going to do it by trial and error. So I showed you one method of balancing, or at least changing elevation. By the way, if everything is selected, I can still instantly move things up and down, either using coordinate transformation or shift. It doesn't matter because the only feature that I care about is the pad boundary. All these other features are going to get deleted and recreated. Now, what did I just do? I went to Modify Selected Feature Shift. This is the other way of changing the elevation. And what it does is it offers you a coordinate which represents the current point, the same coordinate I see here, and you can change it. And everything gets shifted by the same amount. So if I change this to go down a little bit, let's say 721.5, split the difference between my last one and this one, it will move every feature that's selected down 0.5. And then I recalculate the grade. Can I do that when they're all selected? I think so, yeah. It just uses the current feature, and the current feature is the pad feature. There we go. And now it's, again, more cut than fill. I'm getting close, but now I need to go up a little bit more. Let's just do that one more time, and you'll get the idea. So modify selected features, shift, and I still got that one selected. Let's go up to 0.75 here. Regrade. Now my volumes are pretty close to being balanced. Right, so what if I wanted to move the thing? What if I wasn't happy with the position of my pad? Moving up and down or moving sideways are all essentially the same process. So I could just type Control-M. As long as I've got my pad included and I move it or even rotate it, I can then, the pad is still the current feature, just go and recalculate. And oops, now I've got a lot more fill because I moved it downhill a little bit. And you can see that happening down here. What does that look like? Well, let's just take our section feature and move it down there. So let's go across like this. Profile, zoom, dance, there it is. Now I mentioned that the background has some properties. Active window profile options, background, properties. There's actually a profile feature format in here, so I can change this line type if I want. You can also change color and what else can you change here? Symbols if you want. Anyway, I've done that, so I've changed the background color, there it is, and our line type, sorry. And the foreground feature is this one, and I can also change its color and line type if I want. So I'm going to change that draped feature to look like that, and I want to do it in the plan and the profile. Here we go. Now even if it's not selected, you can see there's a different color there. So this end is the fill end. Oops, there's fill at the other end too. Okay. Now let's just tile that so I can see them both. And I can move my cursor and you can see, oh yeah, that's the point right there. The cursor is moving around in the profile window. Similarly, if I move around in the profile, you can see it in the plan. And finally, let's just take a quick look at this in 3D. The background surface is not showing, just the contours and so on. So you can see there's my pad. You can also see those lines falling off the model. That's why I got that warning originally here. Now there have been a few changes to the 3D since we've released version 7. The 3D options has changed quite a bit. This whole tab, Contents, allows you to change the way that each of the surfaces that are in the model are being displayed. So current, I'm kind of happy with that. It's showing a surface of this color. I could change the color if I wanted to. But the background, I'd like to see that as having shaded triangles as well. Okay, so I do that, and oh, I can't see through where there's cut. The background surface is covering my new pad. Easily fixed. If I go into the 3D options now in version 7, I can actually change the color to include transparency. So that's the mysterious alpha channel. 255 is opaque, 100 is somewhat transparent. So I'll say OK to that and OK, and boop, now you can see through it. Any questions so far? Oh, we have one, yes. Is it possible to apply an exaggeration to the profile view? Yes, both the profile and the 3D have exaggeration. It was kind of hard to see what's going on in the profile, so let's do that. So it's got horizontal and vertical scale independent of each other. So for example, I could just, there's a couple of ways to do it. One is to just type in here, say OK. There's a 10:1 exaggeration, and you can do the same thing in the 3D too. Okay, that's in the view section. Oh, I lied. At least I don't see it. Yes, here we are, vertical exaggeration. So shall I do the same, 10, see what it looks like? And zoom extents. There it is. Yeah. Much more interesting when it's exaggerated. Got a question about setting the bank angle. Let's go back to the plan window and just do one more grading. So I moved it a little bit, and one of the nice things about about being able to move things at any time is that you might find that you're impinging on a property boundary or something, and so you just want to move the whole thing or move a feature. Here we go. I'm going to grade it one more time, and this is the bank angle here. One is the cut angle and one is the fill angle, and they're, of course, in this case, they're different. And you can also see which is cut and which is fill by the color of the feature. And in fact, they are cut. And then down here, they're red and they're fill, slope line fill. So it's kind of, this isn't a great example when the, because the ground doesn't slope very much. If I change my clearly, but yeah. Okay, that's pretty, ooh, I got a question. Can you grade to a pavement with slopes for storm drainage? Yes, absolutely, and that's the next thing I was going to show you. Yeah, and actually Hamid has a fairly similar question. Can you break the platform and set it at 2 elevations? Now that I have this surface, I can start to play around with it. If I wanted to make this platform two different elevations, I would probably do that by editing the coordinates, and that's modify selected feature coordinates. And I would probably add some more points in here and change the elevations manually. But let me show you what it looks like when I put in a crown to grade the thing, because it's just going to pull water like this. Oh, I'm getting lots of questions. Okay, let's answer this one first. So I have a pad with crown here. Do I want to save this? No. And the way I got it to grade is I just put in some more features. So and there's a lot of different ways to get the coordinates exactly right for these features. In my case, I started here. I knew this angle, so I knew that angle because it's 45 degrees different. I knew that distance, and I actually used the edit modify selected feature coordinates in survey format to generate this feature. The side of the thing is 18 degrees, so the 45 degree angle is 63. That's 45 plus 18. The distance had to be 70.7 to reach the center of my 100-meter wide thing. So that's that leg there. Anyway, the other way you could do it is to rotate the thing onto a grid and then use your grid and then rotate it back. You could even, God forbid, export the pad rectangle to AutoCAD and then use AutoCAD's nifty features for building these break lines that you need to create your grading, or any other shape for that matter, and then read it back in. Again, we read DWG. But the concept here is that my boundary is still at a single elevation, but this feature here goes up in the middle to give me a 2% grade. And I just have to recalculate that surface, and then I end up with a grade here of 2% in all directions. This does have to be a break line feature to do that properly. Otherwise you get triangles in the wrong spot. Right. Question about defaults. There aren't many defaults in our software. I think the defaults for bank slopes are 1-to-1, and it takes seconds to change them. And once you've changed them, they stay changed. So this feature is my grading feature. It's called bound for some reason. Should have been called pad. Huh. Anyway, I think that's my grading feature. Yeah, it looks like it's all set up. Oh, this one I'm using templates. I want to show you that as well. So it remembers. It stores all the information with the feature. You can grade multiple features at the same time. I could have another feature over here which is graded. If you want them to interact with each other, you might have to do some sort of merging process. But grading boundaries works really nicely. So as you've seen, we can grade it out and generate some nice ditches and stuff at the end. And maybe I want to exaggerate this a little bit. So let's exaggerate it by 5 this time instead of 10. Now, why am I not getting the end there? Oh, this is the wrong profile. Don't need it anymore. There we go. Yeah. The point I wanted to make by doing that other thing was that you can have multiple profiles in multiple windows. So there's one. Let's create another one. I'm just going to use my duplicate key to create a new feature. Whoops, I did it in the profile window by mistake. And let's delete that. Go back here. Do it in the plan window. Move it over a little bit. I've now got a new cross-section. Let's put it in a new profile window. Okay. So there's cross-section number 2. Here's cross-section number 1. And it automatically is creating these projected features. If I have near tolerance set to 0, I don't think that happens anymore. Anyway, I'm just going to clear it out so it doesn't look confusing there. Right. So this is section number 1 down here. This is section number 2. Oh, other way around. Great. Now, I've created a fairly detailed pad. If I wanted to move it now, I would have to be very careful to include these features when I moved it. Now in this case, that's easy because I don't have any extraneous features in here that shouldn't be moved. So I can just easily select everything, move everything, and then make sure the pad is selected. I've got it named incorrectly. I'm just going to change it to pad. And regrade, and it'll update everything, including all the cross sections and the volumes. That's all I wanted to show you for the demonstration. The homework, if you would like to partake, is to go into tips and techniques, and let's come on back there. Maybe take a look at the pad design example. And just to show you what that looks like when you're finished, I'm going to open up the kind of the final page in that example. It looks like this. multiple cross-section windows. This is a multi-plot view. There are a bunch of profile windows, real profiles. There's one. There's another one. There's a plan window, of course. The plan window has an interesting background in it. There's a cut fill map, and that cut fill map was created by actually taking the difference between the pad and the original ground surface and creating a new surface and then contouring it. That's all in the example if you want to see how that works. So you go quite a bit more. There's the multi-plot window again. You can create a pretty nice output using multi-plot to show multiple profiles in a plan at the same time, as well as title block stuff. And there's a lot of control you have over how to create terrains and how to display them in different colors and so on. Okay, any final questions? Thank you very much. As mentioned, I do have a question. Are the colors a big effort? Once you get the idea, I think creating that cut fill map is probably 15 minutes work. It's not a lot of effort, no.
All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us. And as Dave said once more, we have recorded it, so you'll be receiving a link shortly so that you can go and watch it again if you would like to review it.
Okay. And until, I guess, the next one is 2 weeks hence, is that correct?
I believe so. I think the next one, it's February 5th is the next one.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about software optimal corridor design, designing outside the box. So stay tuned.
Okay. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye now.